And yeah. Oh, I have to do this. Can I just touch it? Oh, wait, hold on. I got it. I'm capable. I have on my special glasses. I can see. I can see halfway, long and short. It's just progressives are, I don't know. I don't know if they're for me. Let's just put that out there. Once. Shoot it. Sepa. Sepa Drupi. Sepa Drupi.
Ruyi Yamayi, Tebalasu, Yawa, Jo, Yushina, Tea Yuba, maybe, Chuchi, Bayi, Wana Tada, Mabu, those Shubana, Nebachila, Tata, Raji Yedala, Kuntu Chuba, Dela, New Mai, Maino, Tugan a bit Tawa, Chide, the Jewish, Geshe Lama, or the Tabayana, Shishina, Tebalasu, Suzy Ledge, Chidden, the Sha. Suzy, Shido, Goa, Beyond, Mai, Yemiba, Teki, Nashi, Lama, Sudy Nishi, Tubashi, and what was it? Chuta Hazai, Manizo, Tembe, Haya, Nejine, Suzy, Nala Shete, Namazon, Chuta,
The Shilokaju. Then, hey, Rinpoche, just have a question for Rinpoche, and then we'll get started in 1 second. Rinpoche. Hey, Ranpa, Pangdu, the Gelde Rangi, Ran Drew.
Rinpoche, Tenzin Modu Tang, Modu Koji, Niyu, Ruyi Gon, Tuna, Tebalazu, Riba, Yawa, Joan, Yushina, Tenji, Ishibaji,
The Ranjupa Pangdu.
Rajiba Kader.
Okay, I just had a question about what tenet was. I just had to ask now because I'd forget. It's so okay. So welcome everybody. How you doing today? All right. So stanza 170. I started stanza 169. If you look at how Lama Tsongkhapa groups it, he groups them together, and you'll see why. Because it gates what it's about to show. Consequent. It shows like a truth, and then it shows the consequences that arise from misunderstanding it. So we'll start at 169. You'll see what I mean. If you say that the cause makes contact with the fruit that it produces, they share a single force, and cause and fruit are not distinct. But if they stand apart, a non-cause does not differ from a cause. When these two causes are refuted, there's no third to take their place. Well then, your cause produces no result. So here, okay, so it's showing consequences. Like it's saying, so this is a fact and this is a fact. Now let's go back to what you think. Let's go back to what your views are. And let's show what how reality tears apart those misconceptions. So that's basically what happens a lot in these texts is you'll see like the reality presented and then what the consequence of that reality to their view, basically. Like, what's the, if this is what's true, what consequence does that have on your view? Does that show that it's absolutely wrong? Or does it have a positive consequence and does it support it? I don't know that, anyway. Well then, your cause produces no result, wherefore the fruit, so-called, has no reality. And likewise, without a fruit, a cause is quite unjustified. Both terms, effect and cause, resemble mere illusions. Therefore, I'm not wrong in granting that these things of daily life exist. But does our refutation object make contact with the thing disproved, or does it not? Are we not guilty of the self-same fault? Indeed, when speaking thus, you say we are ourselves confounded, powerless to refute what we intend. The outcome of our cavilling, you say, applies therefore to us, and it is with absurdity that we deny existence of phenomena, and thus our view is not acceptable to holy beings, devoid of any view. You say we argue only to defeat our rivals. That arguments refute their object without touching them, or the reverse. The faults involved in either of these claims belong to those who hold to true existence. This is not our view, and therefore we are safe from such a consequence. It's just as when the sun eclipse is taking place, you see reflections of its changing shapes. To say the sun and its reflections touch or do not touch, indeed, would be absurd. Such things arise dependently and on the level of convention. Reflections are not real, but using them, we smarten our appearance. In just the same way, we should understand that arguments that have the power to cleanse the face of wisdom, unlike your limping sophistries, engender realization of the goal. But if the reasoning that proves our point were something truly real, so this begins to, here it's negating all these tenets. So here it's negating the autonomy school, the Madhyamika autonomy school, the middle way autonomy school. That was the question I asked Rinpoche. But if the reasoning that proves our point were something truly real, and real also the point itself that should be understood, then arguments of contact and the rest indeed would have some truth. But this is not the case. Your own fatigue is all you have achieved. But we can demonstrate with easy cogency that all phenomena lack real intrinsic being. The contrary indeed you cannot prove. So why ensnare the world in webs of faulty logic? The extra refutation given here, devised for those accepting contact and the rest, should now, once grasped, be set aside. The purpose of these arguments was not to give offense, but as we said, may our opponents thereby grow in wisdom. The twofold view, the no self of phenomena in persons, was set forth to lead all wanderers to freedom. Our teacher further classified and spoke of it in sundry ways to different kinds of beings. So you see here the full circle Chandrakirti makes, where he said, but the Buddha realized people entities and taught these other things. So that's why they were presented. I'm speaking to the highest, I'm teaching the highest school. I'm not teaching Vibhashika. I'm not teaching Sautrantika. I'm not teaching Chittamantra. I'm teaching Madhyamika or Madhyamaka. And the Madhyamaka I'm teaching isn't the lower Madhyamaka, the autonomy school. It's the Prasangika school, the middle way consequence school. It from that standpoint, which is the highest final view of emptiness, which all the other systems eventually arrive at in terms of, more and more things are negated, or more and more views that even if you think you hold the Madhyamika Prasangika view, you may not, because you may hold some view you didn't know you held that was actually a Sautrantika view. So you go through all of the tenets so that you make sure that your understanding of Madhyamaka Prasangika school is real, is clear, that you don't have any kind of underlying wrong views that are kind of driving the car still, or that are kind of driving, or that you kind of have half of it right. That's why these great geshes and people who really, really want to get to the pith of what emptiness is, they go through what all of the possibilities of the wrong possibilities are, that seem actually very tenable when you read them without an opponent. So if you just read them, they have reasons, they're not just coming from left field and like, just believe it. I mean, they use reasoning and points And you can see how many of those things are easy to just kind of hold and walk around with without giving examples. But it's very easy to just get into this illusory thing that the mind's just creating everything. And it's to get to this mind only school thing is very easy to kind of fall into, believing that, you know, the mind is making everything, and then believing this mind is here because it's this projector that's, you know, projecting out and receiving in, and it's just this big, you know, kind of waves coming in and out. And you know, this projector seems like it's real, and it's very easy to slip into things like that when you start to talk about illusion. So anyway, let's get to questions. Rinpoche, the trio non lenja.
Okay.
Rinpoche the gomja. Anybody have questions? No questions, huh? Oh my, can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Jeff, I have a
So
question.
we don't have any questions then.
No, I just have one question, unless someone, you know, maybe has a question while I'm asking. If someone would like to follow along in the written text during this teaching, and, you know, while you're teaching this and future classes, where can they get a text? Where can they follow along?
So there's no electronic PDF that I know of on our site, so we'll start there. So I don't think there's something you can get from us. The actual text that we're using is the Padmakar's translation of it, Introduction to the Middle Way. There's a hardcover book. Yep, Ryan's got it in his hand right there. That's the hardcover of it. It's a Kaju Lama.
It's soft cover. It's actually soft cover.
Wow.
Bought it used on Amazon.
Awesome. So that's the one we're currently using, and, you know, why not have it, you know, as a comparison piece? What, you know, it's a different lineages commentary on this text. I would suggest, this is just for lack of confusion, you do whatever you want, but lack of confusion, maybe get into the Tsongkhapa text and get comfortable with that, and then look at it as a comparison, because the language is very, very different at times, and you could get confused because the topic is so complex. You know, I'm just saying, you know, it can sometimes confuse you. Or if you're just like this great crazy scholar, like who loves doing comparative things, then just go for it, you know. But I'm just saying, for me, language sometimes gets me confused. And I'm not critiquing it or saying anything's wrong. I'm just saying it's different. And you know, we're hearing these words in this lineage over and over again. And it's confusing until you realize what the basis is, and then it kind of acts. Okay, that was it. That was the only question. The Kongutriwa, the Injike Unjupa, Sawa Kabara. Then they lapsum, the Mambo Yure.
No.
Yes, Alessandra. I see a hand. I don't know if that means.
Yes,
I feel
thank
like
you. I have a question. It isn't necessarily related to the reading in a direct way. Can Rinpoche recommend
better.
I'm sorry? What was that?
Okay, I said that's a lot better for me.
Oh.
I was joking. A lot better for me. Things a little complex.
I was wondering if Rinpoche could recommend a mantra for I get like really, really angry and frustrated, and then I go off in my head on these tangents. So is there something that I could focus on with a mantra rather than allowing my mind to go places that don't necessarily benefit me?
Specific to anger?
Yes.
The kon lapchagu. Sansan kon the long do contra sapo. Sansan kon. Then the niepo gashu. The dutsu the lomana contra dutsu de niepo gariashu. Zonga yabudu the niepo gariabudu.
정말 나야 그래. 돈이 구하요나. 돈이 산다는 계시부리스.
Then the control niepo shamba.
잡아보는 대로.
Then so Rinpoche proposed a series of antidotes. Then the zonga gari abudu.
나 정말 정말 내버려.
So first, Rinpoche said you can focus on the mantra of Tara. So start to focus, on the mantra of Tara, and then meditate upon emptiness if you can. So when we look at the various afflictions and so forth, the ultimate antidote is meditation on dependence, they say. So that's the ultimate antidote. But there are antidotes for each afflictions that are so because meditating on dependent origination gets rid of grasping at true establishment. Grasping at true establishment is what fuels the afflictions, which fuel our actions, which then keep us encircled in cyclic existence and having to experience among the poisons of the suffering, the suffering of change, and at least the suffering of pervasive compounded suffering. So it's that grasping that starts this I am I, and then mine, and then other, and then this whole misunderstanding goes from there, and then we act wrongly, and we perpetuate the cycle. So emptiness is the ultimate kind of antidote, but it's also a subtle antidote. And at times, the Buddha said that we need very specific antidotes for negativities. Sometimes we have to, if we have something that's the most glaring is what we deal with first, is what they say in the Lam Rim. And it never says that emptiness isn't the best, but it gives specific antidotes for each of them. So antidote in the text is meditation upon love. So, how you arrive, wanting a person to have happiness and the causes of happiness is everybody's own individual. But we've been taught times the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment. We've been taught times that as a pre-step to the 7-point cause and effect for realizing bodhicitta, there is what's called equanimity, and achieving an equal desire to benefit our friends, enemies, and neutrals. So if we can just step away from the specificity there, we can begin wishing to have benefit for our friends, and then maybe move to our neutrals, and then try to get to our enemies. And we don't have to perfect that at that moment, but it serves as a real basis for us to want to then move forward to gain bodhicitta, which wishes to free them all. So it says it's really the foundation is trying to get a neutral, meaning like I don't care, because that's what a neutral is. It's meaning equally wanting to benefit all of them, friends, enemies, and neutrals. So you start with friends, then you go to neutrals, then you work with enemies, and you do the meditation, recognizing the tambo danyo jani pama son gong then juje menga don menga dona nanga shamba gong yore then de kanga de kanga tomba denda yimbi che the salo dana kanga nyamdu yabudu top down share they allowed yabudu. Okay, so then I'm just telling Rinpoche what I'm saying. He's like, just stop, you know. so this, he said, instruction in this way. So you get to this point where you have this basis where you've established this equanimity, this equal desire to benefit these three types of beings, friends, enemies, and neutrals. And then you recognize all sentient beings are our mothers. And then you have many meditations Rinpoche has taught to establish beginningless lives and to use correct signs and reasonings to establish that all sentient beings are our mothers, previous lives mothers, same continuum. It is the I that is being born, this consciousness, the I that's being born from lifetime to lifetime, right? And because it was just a previous moment in that continuum, doesn't mean that it's not valid. And if our previous lives mother wasn't our mother, we couldn't have been born in this life. So you can look away as well, but the real reality is all sentient beings are our mothers because all sentient beings have been our mothers. You know, we don't say it just because somebody was kind 10 minutes ago and they're not kind at this minute, they're not kind. So because they were our mother in the same continuum, you know, not Jeff's mother. So the mother of this life is obviously, of Jeff's mother of this life is a specific person. But when we say Jeff's mother, generally, we would say all sentient beings. So we establish all sentient beings are and we remember their kindness. We remember how kind our mother has been to us. If a mother or a mother figure, right, wasn't kind to us and didn't feed us, and at least our own mothers birthed us and had to go through 9 months of excruciating pain and worry and that we find in the texts that should remember, recognize as kind, that, you know, our mothers had to wonder what they were putting in their bodies if they drank something hot at us. Just things like this we find in the text. Just mindful things that had happened or not stomachs would not have. So no matter what relationship you have with your mother, that experience had to take place in order to be born into this human basis with the 8 qualities and 10 qualities. So I think it's important for Westerners to look at it from that perspective as well, because there is that one point that is that we would not have the opportunity to practice the Dharma without our mothers taking care to allow us to be born. So remember that kindness, and then we wish we could repay that kindness in some way, right?
Yes.
And we think, how would be to repay that kindness? Like giving some sort of treat would be nice, right? But that would be some short happiness. To kind of direct our eyes towards, you know, being able to make them really happy all the time forever. But we aren't there yet. But we start to, oh, my battery's running low. Great. Thank you. I have backup coming. So we begin to then wish that they have happiness and the causes of happiness, right? Because we wish we could pay their kindness. You know, how could they be the happiness? What would be the best thing we could do for them? If we could bring them to a place where there was happiness and the causes of happiness, and that's meditation upon love right there. Wishing that the sentient being has happiness and happiness as causes. So at this point, we're thinking of all sentient beings that are our mothers, right? We remember this, we're wanting to repay it, and we see just like a quick enough for that kind of opportunity that we have right now for having a human basis. So how could we repay that kind of kindness? So we would wish that they had happiness, and we meditate on love for them. And then we wish that they could be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And that's meditating on compassion, great compassion. So we're wishing that all the suffering and the causes of suffering are removed. And then after we have this really strong foundation, right, where we've recognized sentient beings as our mothers, remember their kindness, we wish to repay their kindness, we have this love through the force of attraction. So it's called love through the force of attraction. A weird way to say it, but it's like a magnet. The attraction's like magnetic because you've just realized their kindness, they're all your mothers, you're now this attraction to them, and this love is created by these other things that have happened. It's called the 7-point cause and effect, because each thing cause for the next to happen. You remember sentient beings all are your mothers, and then you remember how kind they were, and you say, I wish to repay their kindness then. And then you say, oh, how nice it would be if they have happiness and the causes of happiness. And then how nice it would be if they were free from suffering and the cause of suffering. And then you get so just inspired, I'm going to do it free right now. And that's this extraordinary attitude. It's a little bit delusional because we're handicapped. We can't do it. And that fact is what switches us and throws us into the desire to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, which is the 7th, which is the result of the 6 causes. Remembering sentient beings are your mothers, remembering their kindness, wishing to repay their kindness, love through the force of attraction, gratitude, the extraordinary attitude, right? That attitude of, I'm going to do it, I'm going to free them all. And then you realize I can't free them all. I must become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings that are all my mothers that are suffering like I am. And that's bodhicitta. That's the Mahayana mind generation right there. Is the desire to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And obviously, if we were to give this in a proper Lamrim context, take it the whole gamut. We go through guru devotion and karma and its results, and get into renunciation and death and impermanence, why we want to definitely get out ourselves, and then we would, get into why we want others to get out. And now the icing on this whole cake, make this a union of method and wisdom, is if you can see as you're doing this, and this is what is the ultimate answer, right? Is that your friends, enemies, neutrals are not truly established because they originate. You are not truly established because you originate. Meditation that you're doing on neutrality, on equanimity, doesn't dependently originate. It's empty. Your mothers that have been your mothers originate, truly established. Your thought of them as your mother, not truly established. All the kindness they've showed you is not truly established. Your response to that kindness and your wish to repay that kindness is not truly established. It dependently originates. Through the force of attraction is not truly established. The object of observation of the love through the force of attraction is not truly established. The happiness that you wish for sentient beings to have is not truly established. It all dependently originates, therefore it's empty. The great compassion is observation, great compassion truly established. All sentient beings are our mothers. We have that great free from suffering, are not truly established, as is not truly established. Those things are empty because and are not truly established. And the sign to truly prove that is dependent origination. The extraordinary attitude, that wish to take on the task of freeing them all, is not truly established. The consciousness that brings is not truly established, nor is Jeff that thinks about that truly established, nor is the Buddha and become truly established, nor is the Buddha nature that Jeff has truly established. That intention's not truly established, nor are the sentient beings that Jeff wants to truly free at that moment, that task that he wants to take on, is established. It dependently originates, therefore it's empty. And finally, that that final attitude, the wish to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, bodhicitta, that word that sounds so big and so grand, is not truly established. It's empty. It is not truly existent because it depends where it originates. So while you're doing the meditation on equanimity and the 7-point cause and effect, if you can recognize that the action, agent, and object are all not truly established, then you're really serious firepower to delusion. And when you get to the other side of that, hopefully you're not angry anymore, because you've done some serious mind bending and exercising, and now like really changed, hopefully, your moment, right? You know, that's what I think.
Thank you. That was very, very helpful. I appreciate it. I have one more question kind of to follow up on it. During the week in between these teachings, I've gone to the website and there's so much wealth of information. And originally I started from the very first one, but then I'm like, well, I don't know if that's what's best for me. And I'm sure for everybody that is in his teachings, there's probably a different recipe of where to start and etc. So for me, I'm wondering, with what I'm dealing with, what would be the best starting point to kind of just focus on throughout the week to help me get through?
Starting point in terms of, so best starting point's the beginning, always.
The beginning list beginning?
Right? What does the beginning mean?
Yeah.
Rinpoche. So do you mean for this specific,
for my,
we would never want, so the whole point of the Lam Rim is to never have an incomplete path, right? So this like starting in the middle wouldn't make sense, but there are specific antidotes throughout the text like we're talking about. So just as an overall, you know, kind of advice, the Lam Rim Chemo, really, you should read page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, follow the commentary. There's something in, Lama Tsongkhapa wrote it in that order. He only had like this much to write everything about Buddhism that matters on the path from the beginning to you become a Buddha, starting with like a teacher, you know, like he had this much space. So every like thing in that book is so important. And I find that there's helpful things for patients in the first 5 pages or so. But let me ask Rinpoche. Rinpoche, Gonga Rinpoche, Konchiwa Yure. Chiran Songchina, Be Mambo Yure, Chishena this computer, Ngapja Yure. Then Tambo Gangisina the Zendra Mambo Yure. Then the Kong the Longlang Ken, the Kong the Longlang Niepo, Kong the Chiwa, the Gariakshu, Gangisina Zendra Mambo Yure. Then Nga the Segudu, the Lapcha Yana, the Lamrim Chambo, Tambo, Nipa, Sumba, Jipa, the Yakshu. Yine, the Chu Lapcha Agenda Yurbe. Then the Natsu Zendra, the Lojong Zendra Yure, the Kashe Yure. Then Long Lankan, the Gari Pensho. Gangistan Kamari, the Shishena Chutsu Kashe. The Lamrim Chemo, the Loju.
Seems we've lost Jeff and Rinpoche. Let's just give them a minute to come back to us.
He did say his battery was low.
Yeah, he had to back up, but let's just wait a minute. Just texted him.
we're back. So Rinpoche said, going back to your question, Alessandra, that he agreed that, you know, in starting in the Lamrim Chemo in order is really the best thing that you can do. Is really the best thing that you can do. But then I was asking him about some of the other specific teachings, and then the computer died. Then the Lamrim Chemo Zendrayashi, the Lojong, and Mambo Yure. So he said, but then everyone has their own individual kind of affinities, right? Or whatever appeals to them. So you have to see what appeals to you. So maybe like click on, you know, there's some mind training teachings in there. There's some other, I don't know which ones pull up right now. So you'll have to click on them, but check around. But if you're going to do the Lam Rim, I would really suggest to, you know, try to, you know, invest in doing it from the beginning, because there's just so much great information there. And you're not going to find that much of an extensive commentary anywhere else.
Okay.
And to be able to kind of like direct you to like page 38 is the one, that's the answer. The answer to, you know, it's tough to do that because there's so many, we have so many afflictions and so many variations of them. And what kind of solves someone else's mind may not solve my mind. So it's very, very specifically written. So yeah, that's it.
So is it acceptable or okay or even advisable if I were to do, like if I wanted to do teachings every day, if I started my morning with the Lam Rim and then maybe in the afternoon, would it be okay to go into a different teaching, or is it best?
That's great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I don't have to like finish the Lam Rim before I go into something else. I can kind of multitask and take more than one class at a time, I guess I would say.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's all going to kind of be like, it's all going to be like this, you know. Rinpoche teachings all kind of are, you'll see.
Thank you so much. Very helpful.
Okay, great. We have Stasha next.
Okay. Stasha, true, where you're at. Okay.
Good morning. Thank you for the teaching and translating. Just quickly, when the Buddha taught the different beings the even wrong view to help them with the entire path, do they still get the karma of believing wrong view, or do they get some good karma because they're following the Buddha's teaching?
Rinpoche, the Sanjay Shacha Tupa, the Duta Mawa, Je Treson. Then the Duta, the Shera Mawa, the Dawa Yuken, Luta Yere. Then Luta de Megewa in. Gangisene Kon Dazin, the Chu Dazin Yere, the Shera Mawa Chu Dazin Yere. Then they Luta in. Garshine. Gangisene Shera Mawa, the Dawa Kashe, the Nyone Yomare. Dawa Kashe, Luta Yomare. Then the Dawa you can. Tepa Yuna. Gewa sa Garian. Gangisene the Khensur the Sheramawa Becha Lojun Shena. The Dawa Loba Kashe Yure. Then Dawa Loba Yuna Luta. Then the Luta Yuna the Megewa. Yene Khensur Sanjay Tepa Yure. Then Nanga Kashe Denden. Kashe the da Khensur Kashe the da Demba Madruba yen. The Nga Demba Madru, Yene Chu Tamche Demba Madruba Yomare. Then the Khensur Kash Dawa Kashe Denden. Then Geda Megewa Nicha. Gangisene Khensur Dawa the Kashe denden kashe dawa lupa yamaribe.
谢谢。
Okay, so we would see both virtue and non-virtue. So we can't say that someone's view, right, that's not correct, isn't wrong view, right? So I just went through the steps kind of with Rinpoche. So the view that they're holding is incorrect, but they have faith and they have in the Buddha, right? But they also have correct views in there, a lot of correct views. So when we look at these tenets, it's not like, oh, the Babashka school believes nothing we believe. No. It's not like that. It's just that final view of emptiness isn't the same. And then some other things, of course, throughout it, depending on what school, how they posit what is form and isn't form and how vows are, etc. There's just a lot of different ideas. But some of the core things are all, across the board the same. It's just the interpretation of emptiness and some of the other small details that you're going to find different. So the things that are correct are correct view. The faith is virtue, but if they're not following correct view, that view in their mind is wrong view. But it's not like, I'm sure there's a big debate. Like, if you're studying wrong view, if it's a building block to right, yeah, you would be. Lobsang La.
Yes, just,
What do you think of this discussion?
well, can you say the question in a clear, like just a straightforward way? Go ahead.
That's a good question.
If the Buddha taught someone a wrong view, as in stanza 179, he taught
Right.
to different beings. He taught them wrong view, but
Right.
to them, they don't know it's wrong view. It's the Buddha's words.
Exactly.
So I feel, obviously, because it's karma and it's difficult, there's a blend of both good and bad karma. But if that being doesn't know that it's wrong view, is the karma of wrong view still there, I guess, because it's the Buddha's
No,
words?
No, oh, that's it. No. Yeah, I see. So, the kinds of wrong views that are included in the non-virtue of mind of wrong view are not the kind that the Buddha taught. Like, those would be the wrong views that negate the functioning of cause and effect of our actions or karma, or that negate the existence of the three jewels altogether, those kinds of wrong views. So it's not the view, for instance, the Buddha taught that, that for people who have the disposition to understand the Chittamatra or mind-only school and to have an affinity to that perspective, the Buddha taught that ultimate reality is the absence of a difference in substance between the consciousness and the objects perceived, right? So ultimately in the Madhyamaka, we don't accept that's really what ultimate reality is, but the Buddha taught that is ultimate reality to certain disciples, but that's not the kind of wrong view that creates negative karma. Yeah, but it's a good question. So then what is it, right? I mean, it's still, so it's like, it is definitely juicy debate, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're grasping at phenomena as truly established, that's wrong view, no?
No, not in the 10 non-virtues. No, I mean, check with Rinpoche. I mean, I'm sorry, like I don't want to.
Tamche, Demba Rinpoche, Natsu Tripa Yure. Chu Tamche, Demba Drupa Yin. Yeah, Luta Yin.
鲁大圣贤就是鲁西罗大，
Oh, Lushe, not Luta. So wrong consciousness, but not wrong view. Yeah, so then Luta Yomare. The Denzin. Luta Yomare.
已经没了。
Oh, so yeah, so wrong consciousness, yes, but not wrong view. The Lushe, the Migewa Yin. Lushe.
罗马等于是
Oh, so and then wrong consciousness is neutral. When we look, is it virtue, non-virtuous, or neutral? It's neutral. But then you could very easily from that prescribe to any among those things that are considered wrong view. Like it's almost, but it's the root of all. You know what I mean, Lobsang Lam?
Well, again, I mean, the Buddha didn't, he taught those views in the context of, I mean, when he taught things as being truly established, he did it in the context of a disciple who he knew would be able to progress on the path and generate greater virtue by holding whatever the view is, whether it's the view that, you know, phenomena, you know, the constituents of the self, the five aggregates truly exist. And when you know, do the meditation on selflessness, then you find that the five aggregates truly exist, or which would be like a Vaibhashika or Sautantrika view, or when he taught the Chittamatra disciples about the mind, that the mind, even though external objects are not a different nature from the mind itself truly exists, even though external objects don't. So for all those disciples, it was in the context that, you know, they needed to meditate on that kind of perspective in order to generate, you know, practice the three highest higher trainings, keep pure ethical conduct, generate greater virtue. So, you know, I mean, in general, what you're saying is true. Yes, but for, you know, so that's why we make such an effort to understand emptiness as understood by the Madhyamaka, as taught in the Heart Sutra, because that's really what's going to completely eliminate from the root, you know, any possibility to create non-virtue again. But, you know, it's like this whole staged, you know, process of going through stages of understanding that the Buddha, you know, how he taught disciples.
It's interesting. The Dalai Lama, we were just watching, and he said that he thinks that the other religious traditions are great. Just a very similar context. He says, if believing in God, that faith makes you create more virtue, then that's a better path for you. So he really put it in that perspective that, you know, if holding this sort of view is better for you spiritually, then that's what's best for you. If that allows you to then, you know, have this intense faith that then makes you more compassionate, because that's what the ultimate goal of all religions, His Holiness was saying, is to make the humans more compassionate. Then if that is a better driver for that, then by all means, one should practice that way. So it's so similar, right? That's interesting. I didn't realize that grasping at true establishment fell wrong. I knew it was wrong consciousness. I just didn't realize it didn't fall categorically under wrong view. So that's great. I knew those others did, but I love when I
maybe I think you can just also double check with Rinpoche on this, but from my understanding, you know, wrong view is necessarily, you know, we say Kortap, there's two kinds of wrong consciousness, right? Kortap and Drontok. So Kortap is like sort of a diminishment of something that does exist. Sometimes they just translate it as like, you know, an under, what do they call it? Under exaggeration. I don't remember the English, but it's like sort of saying, you know, karma doesn't exist, doesn't function. You're negating something that is true. So if something is a lokta or a wrong view, it's necessarily something like that. Whereas you can have wrong consciousnesses that are drontok, which are where you are grasping at something which doesn't exist, but holding it to exist. So it's sort of this different kind of process, right? So that's what, again, you can double check, but that's what I understood to be.
Yeah, when you're here sometime, let's go through that with Rinpoche.
Yeah.
Because I don't see how if you're, you know, coming to the conclusion through, I don't know, that something, if you're establishing a non-existence as an existent, and that kind of makes it a wrong view. But anyway,
that's not a wrong view in this, right? As if you're sticking strictly to the kind of literal translation, it wouldn't be wrong view, but it would be wrong consciousness, which is why grasping at true existence is something that doesn't exist when you're believing it does exist. Grasping that it does exist, that's a wrong consciousness, but not wrong view, as like Pistasha's initial question about, is it negative karma? Is it wrong view? So that wouldn't be negative karma, right? The wrong view.
So strange. Why grasping at karma not existing and grasping at emptiness not existing wouldn't equally be, because
Oh, good. Now you have a good debate. I think it's because it's a little, well, anyway, it's a good, yeah, there's reasons.
Yeah, it's all right. It's cool. Let's table it. Let's table it till Jeff's a little more educated. But it's interesting. What were we saying?
I think karma's not part of the path. It's just a result of everything.
Right. But karma is a reality, just like emptiness is a reality.
So it would be considered wrong view to say.
Yeah.
Let's pray.
Anyway, let us pray. Any more questions before we conclude? The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drakpa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well, with whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors to traverse the 3 times. I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness, all powerful Avalokiteshvara, Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Rinpoche, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, the spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Suji Rinpoche Gutsi Shapi Denona. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Don't forget to sign up and become members. And yeah, and just if you can't, figure it out, just get in touch with a board member, or, send an email out to secretary, treasurer, president, someone.
In the chat, I posted Ted's email address, president@chenrezigcenter.com, so you can email him if you're not sure how to become a member or renew your membership. Okay, thanks everyone. Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you, Jeff.